Hey, what's up there, winners and losers? And by winners, I mean rightists. And by losers, I mean leftists. It's your favorite right-wing fascist here. Just wanted to share my thoughts on the whole Don Lemon business. I definitely have some criticisms regarding his behavior. And stay tuned, I'll tell you all about it. So, as we know, Don Lemon was once a pretty big fixture in popular media because he was my understanding was a CNN anchor, right? He was constantly on CNN. He had the face for it. He had the voice for it. He seemed pretty professional. And of course, he's black. And of course, he's gay. So he's a shoo-in for all the DEI stuff that these libtards are always, about. Other than that, it was pretty easy to tell that he was a moron or a retard. And he felt like he was invincible in that capacity where he was on this, major media platform. And he kind of got a big head and thought he could pretty much say and do whatever he wanted. And one day he said some stuff that even the left turds found to be pretty offensive. This is my understanding. Basically, he made some comments about a female being past their prime. And everything kind of went downhill from there for him. So he tried to recover by becoming basically a YouTuber. And he still calls himself a journalist. But now, my understanding is pretty much all he does is like independent journalism for social media platforms. Like, for example, YouTube. I'm sure he's on every platform, but YouTube's one of the big ones. And he goes out there and he does his independent journalism thing. And that's where he's at in the world right now. He basically did a reverse career path where normally you would start out sort of at the bottom and work your way to the top. He probably started out at the bottom, worked his way to the top, and now he's back at the bottom again. And I'm pretty much doubting that he'll ever work his way back up to the top again. But people kind of see him for what he is now. And really, bottom line up front, the guy's an idiot. He's retarded. He's a moron, in my opinion, right? One of the biggest examples of this that I can think of happened pretty recently, where he was on the street and he exhibited two behaviors. He exhibited a know-it-all behavior, which is frustrating when people do this, but a lot of journalists do it. I mean, I'm seeing journalists all over popular media right now, the legacy media, who will sit there and tell their guests, because one of the things these programs try to do is they try to have, even though most media is left-hearted, they'll try to have a guest on that is on the right. And then they just sit there the whole time and say, nope, you're wrong. That didn't happen. And then they get proven wrong because, just today I saw it, where a leftist journalist tried to tell this rightist woman in this affidavit that's against Don Lemon, it didn't say what her guest said it said. So then the guest had to turn around and show her the affidavit and say, it does say that. Look, it says it right here. And the journalist was pretty much speechless. But this particular journalist, and I'm not going to say her name because I don't even know her name, but she does it all the time. It's so easy when you're sitting there on the screen and you have a partisan platform where you're going to stick up for your tribe no matter what. And it's so easy to say, that didn't happen. It didn't say that. Because most guests aren't prepared to prove you wrong on the spot. It's probably going to happen a day later or something. And with this particular so-called journalist, I've seen it happen several times where she said, it didn't say that. That didn't happen. And then she's proven wrong like the next day. At some point, as a journalist, you got to say, I'm wrong a lot. Like, I'm supposed to be presenting the facts here, but I'm wrong a lot. And I don't even admit it. I don't even own up to it. I don't take responsibility or accountability. But that's a leftist trait. They're not going to do that. They never do that. And the other behavior that he exhibited was an extremely arrogant behavior. And I guess when you think about it, the know-it-all and the arrogant behavior kind of are somewhat the same thing. I think the biggest difference is that you could be a know-it-all and actually know what you're talking about. Whereas if you're arrogant, you're just a jackass. And with this on the street thing that he did with this pretty regular lady, older lady on the street, he was telling her, he was having a conversation about immigration. But basically he was telling this woman, when somebody sneaks across the border, they're not a criminal. They didn't do anything illegal. And the woman's like, well, my understanding is that they did. She was just being really nice and cool about it. And he did this thing where he goes, he didn't say it out loud, but he did it with his body language. He's like, you're stupid. You think that's illegal? That's what he did with his body language. It was really arrogant.
Misdemeanor is not a crime. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So misdemeanor is not
It's
a crime?
not a criminal act. No, if you get charged with a misdemeanor, that's not a criminal
why
act.
get charged at all then, if it's not a criminal act?
Because we have different levels of crime. Everything is not the same.
So it is crime.
No,
It's just
we
a
have
different level.
different levels of. No, I shouldn't say crime, but it's not a crime. You're not breaking the law. I mean, you are breaking the law, but it's not a criminal act.
So it's breaking the law.
It's
No,
breaking the law, but it's
you're
just
not
a
breaking the
different
law.
level
The
of
misdemeanor is not
crime.
breaking the law.
No.
So if you're speeding, drinking, get pulled over, DUI.
That's not a criminal act. Well, no,
It's a
if you're
misdemeanor.
speeding, is a misdemeanor.
It's a misdemeanor.
Right.
So it's still breaking the law.
Okay. Well, if you want to qualify that, we're doing semantics.
Because
But
why
what I'm
would you
saying,
get pulled over?
but what I'm trying to tell you is everything is not the same. It's all not one thing.
But is it the law?
What is it? The law that what?
Is it a law to come
Is
over
there a
legally?
law?
Is there a law?
There are rules that processes that you should follow. Yeah. So you're breaking rules. You're breaking the rules, but you're not necessarily breaking a law.
And he was trying to tell this woman that it's not illegal to sneak across the border. It absolutely is illegal. It's not just illegal, it's criminal. It is a criminal offense. A misdemeanor is a criminal offense. It's a lesser criminal offense. But if you sneak across the border and you get caught and you get sent back to your country and then you do it again, now that's a felony, which becomes, a felony is obviously a very serious offense, right? So it's criminal either way. But he didn't know what he was talking about. I know the basics of it. He didn't even know the basics of it. He was a know-it-all and he was arrogant. The basics of it are, if you sneak across the border, that's a misdemeanor, right? I just said that. You do it again, felony, right? If you come in on a visa and the visa expires, that is a civil offense. Still illegal, still against the law. Doesn't necessarily mean you're a criminal because it's civil. Still against the law. You're still illegal. You are an illegal alien. Whether you sneak across, which is a criminal offense, or you allow your visa to expire, which should be a criminal offense. And I think that law should be changed up there in DC. They should make that a criminal offense like a lot of countries do. If I do that when I expatriate from this country to a place like the Philippines, if I let my visa expire, that's criminal. They'll throw my ass in jail, process me, and expel me from their country, put me on a blacklist. I won't even be allowed in for who knows how many years. It should be a criminal offense. Nonetheless, still illegal. Donald Lemon didn't know that. Why? Because he's a fool, an idiot, and a retard. And he didn't know what he was talking about. Moron. And he got away with that for years as a major mainstream news media anchor. He got away with it for years. Why? Because he had a face for it. He had a voice for it. Because he's black and because he's gay. DEI. That's why he got away with it. And then when he slipped up, he finally showed the world and his fellow leftist activists, what a moron he really was. And they fired his ass. Because he crossed a line. He crossed a line many times, but finally he crossed their line, and that was the end. And it's absolutely the end for him. This dude ain't going nowhere. But a lot of his people are coming out. And by his people, I mean fellow journalists, not blacks and gays, even though most of them probably are too, or some of them anyways. But they're coming out and they're defending him, which is messed up, and I'm going to tell you why. So what a lot of people are saying is that this is a First Amendment issue. As a journalist, you should be able to cover things without having to worry about being, rolled up by the police, okay? That's not what he did. When it came to these recent events with this church business, that's not what he did. He didn't just cover an event. He was complicit. He was involved. He was a part of it. He was an activist. Okay, people are calling this a protest. It was not a protest. People are using this term protest for everything now. When you start to engage in criminal activity, it is no longer a protest. Your rights end where other people's rights begin. And when your rights end where other people's rights begin, it ceased being a protest. It's no longer a protest. Now, it is a rights violation. It is a criminal act. That is what those people did when they stormed that church. Just to be clear, I'm not even a Christian. I'm not a religious person. I am a Satanist. The only Bible in my house right now is the Satanic Bible. And I'm sure that the Satanic Church, the Anton LaVey School of Satanism, probably wouldn't really appreciate me saying anything about them. So I'm not speaking for them. I don't represent them in any way. I'm not a card-carrying member or anything like that. But even though a lot of people might describe me as a rightist or a conservative, I worship the devil, Chief. I'm an Anton LaVey Satanist. And you can look that up and you can educate yourself about that. It is what it is. Do I care about churches and Christians and any other religions like Jews or Muslims? I was about to say Mormons. I don't really care about them either. But I do care about the truth. And I do care about what's right and wrong. Because I can be a Satanist and still care about what's right and wrong. Okay? And care about the truth. And care about justice. I'm seeing it from a very neutral lens. That's why I'm so passionate about it. Here in the United States of America, the law is the law. We are a country of laws. We are not an anarchist nation. People in this country have a right to worship. And when you storm a church and you keep those people from, during a church service, they stormed this church. They came in, they made people fear for their safety, fear for their life. They caused trauma to children. Trauma to children. He even admitted that during his supposedly journalistic broadcast.
It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here, but that's what protesting is about. And so
that's not protesting. That's criminal. Traumatizing children? Are you kidding me? But the leftists don't care, because the leftists don't care about children. These are the people that are ripping children out of their wombs. These are people who are trying to convince children to be transgender and LGBTQIA plus two-spirit, whatever. Okay, these are people who are compelling children to go out and engage in so-called protests where they're blocking off streets. I see it in Washington State, Oregon, California. These kids are going out cursing and blocking off streets and just causing mayhem. It's not good trouble. It's terrible trouble. It's not protesting. It's chaos. Don Lemon was complicit in that. Let me give you an example. I'll give you like a comparison. And I know a lot of people want to shoot comparisons down because they say, oh, but that's not what happened. Well, it's why they call it a comparison. Okay, I know that's not what happened. I'm comparing it to something, okay? As a journalist, take any journalist, whatever, just going about their daily life. Somebody comes up to them and says, we're about to commit an illegal act. As a matter of fact, that illegal act is going to be bank robbery. We're going to rob a bank. Would you like to tag along with us and cover this? And the journalist says, well, yeah, sure, why not, right? So they go in and they rob this bank, and the journalist is right there with this camera, or her, him, whatever, right? They got the camera. These people are robbing the bank. They go in the building. They burst in the building. They say, "Everybody on the floor now. This is a robbery. You don't do what we tell you. We're going to shoot you in the back of the head." And then this journalist starts wandering around the lobby of the bank, interviewing people, saying, "Are you scared right now? Have you peed your pants? Do you feel like peeing your pants? Do you understand why this is happening? Don't you feel for these bank robbers? Don't you understand that maybe these bank robbers are poor people that need money? Aren't you sensitive to that? Why would you not be sensitive to that? You know, I understand you're uncomfortable right now. I understand this is traumatic for you. But don't you understand why these bank robbers are doing what they're doing? They need money. We live in a very hard to survive in country right now. Did you know that these bank robbers are black? One of them's gay. Don't you understand that they need the money, that what they're doing right now is because of their circumstances? Do you know what reparations is? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Are you kidding me? You can't do that as a journalist.
What do you think of this?
Just a harmless Christian here that wants to praise the Lord with my son, and now I got to go home. I'm sorry that you guys are so angry.
I'm just chronicling. I'm not with the group.
Oh, what do I have to say?
Can you understand why they're angry?
I don't understand any of this because I'm a simple man. I'm a simple man who loves the Lord and is a good father. So this is what we look forward to, is coming, being with our family and praising Jesus, and that's not something that we have to run away from. So this is kind of a bad day for us. But, we're going to heaven, so that's the best news we got.
Do you understand that some of these folks feel voiceless?
I don't understand, because right now I'm so upset right now. I don't really have I'm thirsty, and I can't think very clearly. So what I want to do is just say, we love you.
Yeah.
My son and I love you guys.
Yeah.
And
I'm a journalist. They're activists.
The simplest thing we can say is that we love you guys.
What do you mean, you guys?
Well, whoever's here in this house.
Okay.
We don't distinguish between Christian and non-Christian. We love everyone, and we want everyone to come to heaven.
Yeah.
We want people to go to heaven.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. We want folks to go to heaven, and if we need to talk about these things, then, this isn't the time for that, really.
But don't you think until we go to heaven, if you believe in that there should be some sort of peace here on earth, and that people should have agency, and we shouldn't be beating people up off the street, and we should be abiding by the Constitution?
I think that's just a little bit loaded for me right now, what you're doing.
Why so?
Well, I don't want to interview right now. I don't want to interview. I just want to tell you guys I love you. I don't need to interview right now because I want to be with my son. It's Sunday. It's time for rest and for renewal.
Where are they? Like in this car, he's like right on the corner.
And I would like to answer your question. I just can't right now.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
You can't do that as a journalist. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, I did a little research of my own. Did you know that journalists have a code of ethics? Just like any other profession does. We had it when I was in the Army. As a matter of fact, in the Army, part of my code of ethics, they don't call it that in the Army, but when you're in the Army or when you're in the military, it's understood that you're putting your politics aside. Whatever your politics are does not interfere with the way that you do your job, as in my case, as a soldier. Same thing with Marines or airmen and airwomen, sailors, right? Your politics go out the window. You leave them at your house, and you do your job regardless of your politics. And journalism should be the same way. It really should. It's a profession. You leave your politics at the door as soon as you enter your workplace. Journalists have a code of ethics, right? If you just Google it, you'll see. And a huge facet of this code of ethics, and I'm moving over to my computer now so I can read some of this to you. One of the huge facets is what's known as minimizing harm. Minimize harm, right? And this is just to be clear, Society of Professional Journalists, okay? Society of Professional Journalists. And I'll tell you, transparency, right? when I look at I just seen a banner. That's why I said, ooh. All right. This banner says SPJ, Society of Professional Journalists, improving and protecting journalism since 1909, right? Long time, right? SPJ strongly condemns arrests of journalists covering anti-ICE demonstration in Minnesota. The Society of Professional Journalists, oh damn, listen to this. The Society of Professional Journalists strongly condemns Friday's arrest of journalists Don Lemon and Georgia Fort in connection with their reporting on a January 18 demonstration at a church in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I find that really interesting that they would say that. And this is me being very transparent. This is what journalists should do. I'm not trying to hide this from you. This is straight from their website. I'm telling you something that goes against everything that I'm saying right now. This is a statement that is a bullet, like a strike against what I'm telling you right now, saying that I'm the one who's wrong, right? But I'm telling you because that's what's on the website. I'm not trying to just lie and cover things up, right? That's what it says. But then when you scroll down and you're talking about these SPJ Code of Ethics, you scroll down and it says right here, minimize harm. And the first bullet point is balance the public's need for information against potential harm or discomfort.
So this is what the First Amendment is about the freedom to protest. I'm sure people here don't like it, but protests are not comfortable. And there are people here who are, I'm looking at a young man who's in the corner, he's frightened, he's scared, he's crying, people are leaving church.
Pursuit of the news is not a license for arrogance or undue intrusiveness.
Our church had gathered for worship, which we do every Sunday, and we were interrupted by this group of protesters.
Yeah.
We asked them to leave, and they obviously have not left. So.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. So.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live in there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a
no
Christian?
one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
Intrusiveness? What do you think they did to that church where they had a church service and they were trying to worship? That was intrusiveness. Undue intrusiveness. But then the leftists are going to say, oh no, that wasn't undue intrusiveness. That was very well-deserved intrusiveness. No, it wasn't. That's ridiculous. The public's need for information against potential harm or discomfort. That's exactly what they did to those people at that church service. They harmed them and they caused them an extreme amount of discomfort where it rose to the level of trauma. They traumatized those children. Show compassion. This is the next bullet point. Show compassion for those who may be affected by that news coverage. Used heightened sensitivity when dealing with juveniles, and the following are my words, also known as children. Yeah, there were children present, and these children were traumatized. This is straight from their website. Show compassion for those who may be affected by news coverage. Use heightened sensitivity when dealing with juveniles.
Yeah, that was interesting to watch. This guy here, look, he's hugging his kid. And, you know, I imagine it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But
there was no heightened sensitivity from Don Lemon when dealing with children. during that whole episode? Zero. None. He violated the journalist code of ethics, period. And yet they have the audacity to put up at the top a banner condemning his arrest. They're going against their own code of ethics.
So there's one of the members who looks to be really upset, a young person. The pastor's trying to calm him down over there. And yeah, so there you go. You're a member of the church?
What's that?
You're a member of the church?
I do.
How do you feel about this?
I don't necessarily agree with everything that's going on in the Twin Cities right now, but I don't think it's good to fight fire with fire. I think it's good to speak up, and I think it's good to protest, but I think it's better to do it in a peaceful way. I don't think the answer is going into God's church.
You don't think this is peaceful?
Well, it's trespassing.
Nobody fighting.
It's trespassing. How would you feel if I went into your house and I started yelling?
It depends on what I did, but not in my house. That's a whole different thing. I think these people would go inside of anybody's house.
This is a house of God.
Yeah. Big, huge violation. I would say that's quite the violation. And honestly, I'm sure I could find other stuff in here too.
I don't think they know what to do. I'm sure they probably call the local authorities right now, and they'll show up in a bit, but so far no one has been hurt. People are just really angry and upset, and members of the church are trying to get them to calm down. But this is the beginning of what's going to happen here. When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street and you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution, when you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry. And if you remember what the Civil Rights Movement was about, the Civil Rights Movement was about these very kinds of protests. And for some reason, in our modern era, people think that in order to have protests, you got to be, cordoned off to a certain area, and what time you can protest. There's nothing in the Constitution that tells you what time you can protest. You can protest at any time. That's the whole point of it, is to disrupt. It's to make uncomfortable. And that's what they're doing. And that's what I believe when I say everyone has to be willing to sacrifice something. You have to make people uncomfortable in these times. If you see how uncomfortably and how harsh people are being treated on the streets, you have to be willing to go into places and disrupt and make people uncomfortable. That is what this country is about.
Deny favored treatment to advertisers, donors, or any other special interests. I would say that the group who stormed into that church, I would consider that a special interest for sure. Deny favored treatment to advertisers, donors, or any other special interests, and resist internal and external pressure to influence coverage.
But by the way, just so you know, this is what you get with independent journalism that you will not get with corporate media. I'm just here to tell you. So if you're in the chat, if you're with us, support us.
Bottom line is, this dude violated the journalist code of ethics. He's an activist. He's not a journalist. He's an activist. And fortunately, legal authorities of the United States of America have identified this, and they acted. Thank goodness they did, because I really started to question their willingness to actually hold people accountable. Like I started to question, like, is the federal government really going to do anything about this? I mean, they're kind of almost like they're sitting on their hands. Well, they did something about it. And he needs to be held accountable. And these people need to be held accountable. There has to be a line drawn. You can't do what they did. There are limits with these so-called protests. Once you start damaging property, that's not a peaceful protest anymore. But here in the United States of America, it seems like people are calling this peaceful protests. They're not peaceful protests. They're violations of the law.
I'm surprised that law enforcement has not showed up yet.
As far as my conclusion to this video goes, I mean, this is clearly a political matter. And when it comes to these political matters, it's very tribal. Here in this bipartisan environment, in the United States of America, the right versus the left, where there's such a huge divide now. The left is going to do anything it can to defend its position. Same thing with the right. I got it. I'm not saying that the right wouldn't do the same, but those folks that are clearly aligned with the left are going to defend this guy because he's a spokesperson for them. He's an advocate for them. He's a leftist. He's a leftist activist. And they're going to defend him with everything they've got. And they're going to try to convince us that he's a real journalist and that what he did was just journalism, even though it wasn't. And that they're gonna continue to go with their narrative instead of saying, you know what, let's put our politics aside for a minute. Let's really look at the right and wrong of this situation. Let's look at the morality. But unfortunately, the blur that exists with morality in relation to politics is so huge that we can't really even do that anymore. Who knows why? You've got all these people who are defending this guy. You know, there's got to be rules. There's got to be lines and limits. We can't just do any freaking thing we want. Even if you're a journalist, there's rules, there's limits, there's lines that you can't cross. You know, with the earlier comparison with the bank robbery. If somebody comes up to you and says they're going to rob a bank, you probably should just report that to law enforcement. You know, maybe you could get away with standing outside the bank and covering it, but still, they informed you that they were going to commit a criminal act. Probably should report that to law enforcement. Had Don Lemon entered that church, found a chair somewhere in the corner, and just filmed what was going on and said, hey folks, here's what's going on, and just filmed it, maybe then he could have gotten away with it. But he didn't do that. He did, like I said earlier, he went around interviewing people.
Can I talk to you, sir? What do you think of this?
You know, while I agree with everybody's freedom to protest, these people have come into our house and they've interrupted our worship. This is a house of peace, and we try to proclaim that. And this stirs division and rancor. And in the end, it's not helpful. Ultimately, I believe they've lost. They've emptied a house of worship. Everybody's gone home. Their point has been proven worthless. And so, in the end, I think they lose. But more importantly, if I was to break into any of their houses uninvited, cause derision and upset according to their values, I would be kicked out ultimately. It's not a good way. I feel violated. I feel interrupted. I feel angry.
May I ask you something? When you were saying if you had showed up at their house, they're saying that people are showing up at houses where there are citizens
Yes.
without due process
Yes.
and breaking and entering the house.
Yes.
One that we saw, I've been watching from New York, with a battering ram into someone's private property, and
Yes.
there's no recourse.
Yes.
There's no, you understand what I'm saying?
This is all part of a much larger dialogue, in my opinion. You know, on one side are people who watched a previous administration bring 12 million people in over the course of 4 years, and many of them undocumented, many of them criminals, etc. This is another administration's corrective. Now, whether you agree with the policies or procedures, I think I could actually be sympathetic to some of the things where there have been challenges to and decency. At the same time, these are what are called targeted interventions by ICE to keep the American people safe.
If I respectfully may interject here, I've been out reporting on a lot of these, and they're not targeted. There are no warrants signed by a judge, let me finish. And they're American citizens, many of them. Most of the people that they detain don't have criminal convictions or criminal records.
I'm not going to get into the weeds.
But you should know that, though. Don't you think that's part of it?
Yes, and I could also show you many opposing sides where we're also picking up the very criminals that have put Americans in danger. And I'm not saying it's pretty. I'm not saying it's not messy. I'm not saying it couldn't be better. I'm saying this is a part of a much larger dialogue in which one administration caused a great deal of chaos and havoc and danger for American citizens, and another is trying to correct that.
Do you believe that? Why honestly,
Okay.
let me talk to you
Listen,
just on the
you're not
facts.
a journalist.
Yes, I am. I want to give you the facts.
No.
Did you know that undocumented people and immigrants commit far less crime than American citizens?
We're done here. We're done here.
Than natural-born Americans? You won't listen.
If you could ask
I'm
an
giving you the
objective
facts.
question
It
and not
is.
give me facts, I would have a conversation.
But I can respond to you.
No, we're done.
Did Jesus stand with the oppressed?
Because he doesn't want to listen to facts. That's the interesting thing about this, is that they won't listen to facts.
No.
You won't, because
when you
because
pose as a journalist,
I am a
and you
journalist.
ask me
Journalists give
questions,
facts.
And then you start correcting me with facts, and don't have.
You shouldn't hear the facts.
Of course, I should
most
hear
of the people
facts.
who are picked up
but will
are
you
not.
give me the
have
facts on both sides?
That is the facts on both sides. Most of the people who are picked up and are detained are not convicted. They have no criminal convictions. They have no criminal records. None. That immigrants commit far less crime than native-born Americans. So they won't listen to the facts. Anyways, these folks are still out here.
My conclusion to this is, this guy, he deserves everything negative coming his way. I hope they put him in prison. And I hope that they put the people who were with him and solicited his journalistic services, I hope they put them in prison too. This is absolutely unacceptable. It cannot continue to occur in the United States of America. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe that anybody would advocate for this man. It wasn't journalism. It was activism. It was illegal. And it is unacceptable. It is what it is, folks. Hey, if anybody disagrees or anything, leave a message in the comments. I'd appreciate it if somebody would watch my videos. But then again, I don't really care. I do this because it's cathartic. Have a great day. Take care. Be safe.